Doma Sports Talk Worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Now we got the sport coming back, leaving basketball coming back. It's just funny with no crowd. We had Joe Joyce beat Wallace, right? In the fight heavyweight, handling his business with Wallace. Joe Joyce better be a little careful. He came in heavy. He's very hittable. But it's just I'm a big 270-pound dude, and but Wallace was hitting him with some right hands that you don't want everybody to hit you with. But Joe Joyce came through, so we might have that Dubois fight. One little news. But one to the top 5 news in boxing. One of the top 5 news. The very top is what's going on with the gloves and the cheating from Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. That's the biggest story in boxing, period, by far, actually. But it's not being talked by mainstream media. But don't let that fool you. Everyone should be concerned about what that is, and everyone should at least want it to be investigated. If you don't even want gloves to be investigated from Tyson Fury, and you're seeing images and pictures, even of what happened to Deontay Wilder and all that, then you probably are racist, right? You're not a fair person. You're probably evil-minded, evil-spirited, because in sportsmanship and fairness, you would want that to be investigated, especially a Tyson Fury who has done things before, and a lot of them. But we're not talking about that in this video. But for me, that's the very biggest story in boxing. Another top 5 for me is what's going on with Demetrius Andrade in the middleweight division. I just think that's absurd. We had a middleweight fight, an undisputed fight last year. Canelo didn't take it, and Canelo's still considered bigger and better than a Demetrius Andrade, and that just can't happen if he's the one who doesn't want to fight this guy for 7 years, which for me, that's a huge story. That's in my top 5, right? And that brings me to another one, and Canelo, his next opponent. That's a very big story because of the things going on, because one of the other top 5 stories would be Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson is coming on the Mexican holiday, September the 12th. It's an old school fight. It's going to be a exhibition, more or less. But who knows what happens. Those are 2 big names, and it's going to be on pay-per-view. And so that's going to make Canelo's fight very interesting because, listen, Canelo is signed for the new app, Dazn. Most people understand that. He's at Dazn, he's big, he's on the little commercial for Dazn and all of that. They paid him a lot of money, and he's had some fights that are not really worthy of all that money. Last year, fighting Kovalev instead of fighting on the Mexican date, which you could have. Let's make sure that's clear. A lot of people get it mixed up. Oh, he had to fight Kovalev. He didn't. He fought Kovalev in November. He could have fought undisputed. Saying it again. Demetrius Andrade, undisputed 1 middleweight champion. He didn't. The zone accepted. Right? They accepted that. They also accepted the fact that he was doped, clenbuterol, twice. He missed his Mexican date, Cinco de Mayo date, because of being doped. Luckily, the WBC just raised the levels up a little bit, and they only would suspend him for 6 months, which 6 months for a boxer equals nothing if you're not a prospect. Only prospects fight more than twice a year. So for Canelo, it's like, okay, cool, just until my next date, basically. Yeah, that's all it was, right? And you were doped, caught twice with clenbuterol. But they raised the levels now, so that means the guys in Mexico can eat the Mexican meat. The levels are raised instead of basically putting Canelo out for 2 or 3 years like they would have done others. But I told you when that happened, what's going to happen? Everybody else that gets doped is going to always be able to say, I don't give a damn what you do. You didn't do nothing to Canelo. That's why everybody's not getting more than 6 months now. It's going to take a while, and then they'll start again. It's just the way it is, because you got to justify what you did with Canelo. So Canelo, nothing happened. He's the highest paid one. He's the face of boxing. They still have him pound for pound, even though he's doped, even though he's fighting at 155 for 4 or 5 fights, and that's not even a weight division. Even though everyone in the industry knows that he's got the franchise title because he doesn't want to fight Charlo, Dazn and everyone else knows he doesn't want to fight Andrade. How do you be the number 1 pound for pound when you don't want to fight people in your own division? And not recent dudes who just got up there. Guys that have been there the whole time your career. Demetrius Andrade, literally, every step of the way he's in Canelo's weight division. That's unacceptable for me, but anybody who's been here more than twice knows that. One dude even said, shoot, I should be on the payroll for Demetrius Andrade. Talk about him so much. It is what it is. It's the biggest story. It's in my top 5 stories. Matter of fact, it's my second biggest story behind the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury thing. It is. It's just ridiculous. I don't know why people don't talk about it every day. That should be your intro. What's going on with Demetrius Andrade? But, okay, so bottom line is this. Canelo still fighting, look for an opponent, right? An opponent. Now, before all this happened, if you would have fought Demetrius Andrade, wouldn't be a problem. Everything would be cool. Matter of fact, Roy Jones Jr. and Tyson wouldn't be fighting on your date because your date is the bomb. If you would have fought Jamal Charlo, especially in Texas, that's where he's from. Huge fight. Even without crowds, whatever. So it didn't have to be in Texas, whatever. Jamal Charlo, which was your mandatory, the reason why you got a franchise belt right now. Everybody would be watching that. Huge fight. He wouldn't have had to fight Darren Chico, Jamal Charlo. No, you would be okay. But now because Canelo's had these other names, the Quigleys. Did you want to watch Quigley? Do you even know who Quigley is? Right? No. Lemieux, David Lemieux, did he make you? Is that the guy who deserves a fight? And it's others that are the only good name, pretty good name, is Callum Smith that's in there. Other than that, the names are not worthy of a fight. And Oscar De La Hoya has come out and said that the zone hasn't approved any of those names up until now. I'm sure they're salty. They keep mentioning Golovkin, but even Golovkin and Canelo, they're telling us people want to see that, but that's not. And they should do a poll. People not really want to see that either, because let's make sure you're clear. You're clear about this. Golovkin ain't fought nobody, right? He's about to fight Zamareta instead of Canelo. He fought Darren Chinko and didn't readdress it. And before that, Steve Rolls, and before that, Matt Rosen. So it's not like Golovkin is everybody thinks he's the best right now. Shoot, Manny Pacquiao thinking about coming up two-weight division to fight Golovkin. That's not respect. So that respect for Golovkin and Canelo is not there, right? It's not there in your Keller. The bottom line is neither one of them are busting through the door where that fight is huge anyway. But the zone seemed as though they signed Golovkin and Canelo. That probably would have been the fight they wanted to have because they know that they can't get, even though Demetrius Andrade signed there, they can't. Canelo's just not doing that, no matter what. He'll say, I don't want the contract no more if they forced to do that. So, the zone's frustrated. They haven't approved an opponent. Oscar De La Hoya is frustrated, want to come back himself to fight hard guys because his guy won't, right? So this is all going on, and we got a fight on September the 12th. So that means y'all gonna have to get a DAZN, and Canelo gonna have to do something quick to get an opponent. I don't know if it's gonna be a Quigley, right? A John Ryder, David Lemieux, Toriano Johnson. Any of those names, somebody you're saying, hey man, that's the one I want to Canelo to fight? No, you're not. Not inside. But are people out there that would say a couple of these names so they don't have to say an Andrade or a Charlo, right? Because they know what time it is. And those ones that know that Canelo won't fight Andrade or Charlo will tell you that he's the best boxer in the middleweight division. And they'll follow him up to the super middleweight. Callum Smith is a good name, but Benavidez is better, right? Because Callum Smith is coming off the John Ryder, actually a loss to John Ryder, but he got the decision, right? When you go up higher, then you hear the names Beterbiev and Bivol, right? Those are names, those are hard fights for Canelo, so he's probably not going to take them, but they're not more noteworthy than a Charlo or Andrade, right? And here's another thing about Canelo's opponents. You can pick one that speaks English. We don't have to look for subtitles, you know what I'm saying? Translators and stuff. You can pick up somebody who speaks English. It's okay, right? In America, they'll be okay with that. That they can understand the opponent for a change, right? But that doesn't happen either. So it's very interesting. It's the biggest story, or the second or third biggest story in boxing, to see who Canelo's going to fight on his Mexican holiday, right? Because those names that you could fight were everything. Everybody would have shut up. And Canelo's all that. If you had fought these guys, you're not going to do it. So the names that are left, the zone's not happy with it. And the fact that they've spent so much money, they shouldn't be. Doma Sports Talk Worldwide. And I'm up out of here, y'all. Bam.